Welcome to Lifebox Media Channel, ladies and gentlemen. It is a true pleasure to have Mr. Brendan Wade on today. How are you doing, everybody?
Well, if it's a pleasure, you got to raise your standards. I'm doing great. Thank you so much, sir.
You know what? Okay, we're at the ICCC 2025 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I mean, man,
Where are you? If you're not here, where are you?
I'm telling you, brother. You tell him now. Tell me a little bit about your career here, man. I mean, you know, right now, a lot of people know you from the Mandalorian and everything else, and you have a huge lineage we'll get to in a minute. But I mean, you know, and it's really awesome. By the way, you and I have been sitting here talking a little bit beforehand, and we'll get that in a minute. But really appreciate you taking a few minutes and, you know, and us having a good time, having a few conversations.
Hey, it's fun. I mean, I started late in the business, as they say. I was about 27. I was fumbling around in life with my mom and said, hey, you got to finish school. I'd already done 7 years of college and I wasn't a doctor. So
oh, no.
In honor of my mother, I said, hey, I know you probably wish I wouldn't, but I think I want to go into business. And her father, you know, happens to be this kind of legendary guy. And she said, well, you better learn the trade. And I was very cavalier about it. I was like,
oh, no.
Why? Just go be me. She goes, well, you think your grandfather was just him? And I was like, well, no, it was totally different. Like, so how do you think he got to be able to pull that off? And sure enough, I listened to her and I went to theater school first. And I had no intention of ever doing theater in my life. And then I fell in love with theater. Like, I learned to dance, sing, you know, somewhat sing.
Hey, brother.
At least a foundation of where I was going to go and how I was going to work through my process as an actor.
Right.
And I went to SC Film School. So I went to American Academy of Dramatic Arts, where I met my amazing wife, Sarah, who is a great actress on her own, and is now does more than just acting; she coaches everything.
Right.
So
Nice.
I'm in the business.
Get a couple of extra lessons too. You know?
She literally is the reason why you have what you have as far as Mando goes, because she helped me build my foundation and works with me daily on episodes and movies and the whole thing. And she's the reason I got my first job, which was on Angel.
Nice.
She submitted me blindly. I had no agent. I wasn't part of SAG, but Joss Whedon was great. Called me in. I was good enough. Played it. Clearly, I was a good actor because I played a genius. And they paid
I love that.
So
I love that. So it's fact, right?
Yeah. Hey, once a legend becomes fact.
There you go. You're just quoting, brother. You know.
So I did that, and then you know you work never for a few years.
Of course.
A little bit, and then you know did Cowboys and Aliens, and I just wanted to you know live my Western lifestyle. So it was really cool to do that. I think Favreau saw me and recognized that he's legitimately a cowboy.
Right.
Which probably hurt me on all the other projects I tried to get on with him. And then Mando came around and he was like, you know what? We need an actor in the suit. We can't just have a stuntman. We got to have an actor. And so he reached out to my agent and was like, hey, come try this outfit on. And I was like, for what? And they're like, well, I can't tell you. I was like, then you got to pay me because I got kids.
I got to pay the bills, brother.
Yeah, sure enough, I went and I'm like, I was Boba Fett. And they're like, shut up, it's not Boba Fett. I'm like, don't worry, I signed an NDA. Turns into this thing, Legacy's making fun of me, and they're like, hey, you look good in this suit. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but whatever.
Oh,
so,
no.
I think I'm just trying on a suit for someone else to wear anyway.
Right.
Well, they give me a call. They're like, hey, we want a screen test. I'm like, okay, great. They're like, it's next week. I'm like, can't do it. They're like, what?
Oh, no,
now I know it's a Star Wars project. And they're like, no. And I'm like, I can't. I got my kid's going to college, and I got to be there. I'm taking her to college. Oldest kid. They're like, are you out of your mind? I was like, no, family's always first.
Right.
They call my agent. Are you this guy? I'm like, no, I'm not going. They're like, well, what if they fly you back early? I'm like, no, I'm not leaving early.
Yeah, we know how that works sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Sorry, guys. And then they're like, you're really going to turn this away so you can go be with your kid. I'm like, I think the sentence says it all.
That's it, brother.
And so they changed it and moved every other person's schedule so I could do it before I left. And I did. I left. I went to go take my kid to college, trying to figure out how I was going to pay for her room and board.
I just gave away my paycheck.
I'm a bartender.
Right.
And then they called me while I was there, and they were like, hey, we're going to do this. But you have to sign a contract every day. You will not be guaranteed anything.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, okay. I said, fine, I've worked for things before in my life. I'm good.
Sure.
And so that's what I did. And I signed a contract every day, and I earned my way every day. There was only one day I had off during filming. Otherwise, I was in that suit every single day working. And it was amazing, and it was the greatest experience I've had to be able to create a character and then see what he did was unreal. Like, it's closest I'll ever get to being John Wayne.
And your body language, and I want to get to that part. And by the way, we've had almost all the Boba Fett's on, so you're just fitting right. You're fitting right into our here.
I'm the last of 8 kids, and so everyone else would get to choose who they played when we were playing Star Wars.
Right.
Boba was the last one. He was in it like this much. Everyone was mad at him so none of my brothers wanted to play him.
Oh.
So I was with Boba always. So he became my guy. Like, whether I liked him or not, I did eventually like him. I did hate him for freezing on and having to wait so long to see what happened. But honestly, like, it was really cool. And his costume was the best.
Yeah, it's very
no
cool.
Better. Everyone else looked like they could have fallen out of like a 70s bar, in
Right.
my opinion. So to have this very specific look was great. And I didn't have to wear a mask. I could wear a helmet all day. So, and I proved that. So it was kind of like kismet to be
I love
able
that.
to play a Mandalorian. So,
Yeah, and let me ask you, and your body language in that. Okay, look, and I hadn't seen a ton of the episodes, but having Mark Anthony Austin's one of my good friends, journalist, and one of the guys from New Hope, and so I sit there and I was like, oh man, and I turned it on one day, and boom, you're on.
Yeah.
So now I don't know who you are at the time because in fact I was just clicking through the channels and okay, I got to stop and check out the new show, right? You know what it is, and I was like, damn, your body language, and you're like, and I mean, you had such an attitude.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, that was awesome because having a mask or a hood or any of those type of things it is, and restricting your body and your facial expressions and everything else is very hard to do, I mean, and so it's like when I critique a Jason from Friday the 13th, it's the same thing. You have to do it in your body, and you did a hell of a job.
Every movement matters. And when you're not wearing a costume, you can do this,
Right.
and people don't think twice. But when you're in that, like a helmet, and you move your hand, and you do it, all of a sudden everything matters. But it also, so like John was like, I need you to watch Westworld, the original,
Oh, wow.
and T1, and watch Schwarzenegger. Because initially in season 1, he's Mando's very robotic, he's soulless.
Right.
The Tin Man without a soul, without a heart. And so, as the season goes along and he becomes more inclined to protect the kid and the whole deal, you see him physically get a little more comfortable. But no matter what, every movement meant something. He walks into that bar, he doesn't walk in and he's like, hey.
Yeah, he's not what's up, bro. Yeah, exactly.
And he's not free. Everything he does, and I'm, this is my mission.
Right.
I see this. And so it's, and then the 3 guys walk up, and there's a little bit, and you learn through trial and error. And John knew what he was talking about from Iron Man, and he taught me a lot. But you go back and watch like my grandfather, and he doesn't do a lot of this stuff.
Right.
Clint talk maybe he's a little funnier, but for the most part, you're talking about a guy who never wasted a movement.
Right.
Every move, and when you're a cowboy and you're a gunslinger, you don't sit there and. Like they had the gun up here, and I was like, you got to drop this down. This rifle's got to get smaller so I can run with it. I need a magnet attached here so that I can flip it. So like when you look at, that's because this has to attach there.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
thing that hangs there. That's so that I can reach it. Otherwise, how else are you going to control this thing? And so I'm able to do this. I come in and meet Grief Karg, I take that rifle off right there, and everyone's like, and so,
A little bit of gunslinger experience there, right? You got it in the family.
Moments mean the world. And when I was doing Cowboys and Aliens, I learned how to draw from Phil Reed, who taught everybody on Appaloosa 310 Yuma. He was the guy, and nobody went to him on Cowboys. So when there was time and he was doing, I was the only guy there, and he was like, "Wait, you're who?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm John Wayne's grandson." Yeah. And he's like, "You're naturally gifted at this." And I was like, "Well, I've spent my whole life growing up. I thought everybody did. Playing a cowboy wanted to be a cowboy.
Right.
So, that was always going to be the movement.
Right.
I didn't spend my whole life wanting to be an FBI guy in clear rooms.
Right.
Which eventually I did, and I love
Sure.
that too.
Sure. It's neat. Yeah.
Like, you want to be a cowboy. When I was a kid, you want to be a cowboy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I hear you, brother.
and it was Clint as much as it was my grandfather for us, you know. And you walk in here, and then when it became time to fight, you dropped into that hip, it tightens your leg, it tightens that strap, and then you just wipe your hand. You don't grab your gun, you wipe your hand. And all of a sudden you learn all these little things. And I became a better actor because of Mandalorian, because you go into an audition and you sit there and either it works for the character or it doesn't, but everybody remembers you when you walk out because they're like, that dude was intense. And it's not that you're intense, it's just that you're not wasting movements.
Right.
And you come off as somebody who owns a room. It makes a big difference.
Oh, for sure, without a doubt. And it's funny because you mentioned it, earlier, is that, and by the way, sorry, my phone went. A great thing is that in the Terminator 1, when he walks in the bar, it's amazing.
Yes.
That's my favorite scene of the whole doggone movie of the check, and the dude's gonna mess with him, right? Yeah. So yeah.
And you watch Brenner in Westworld. And
right.
You watch it's like there's two different things going on.
Yes.
And he's doing this thing, and it's so good. And you wouldn't have noticed it, but John's so good at recognizing these incredible, talented moments and putting these things together. He loves to mash things together to see what he can do.
Right.
And that's
great movie.
Gave me a great blueprint to move.
And the original Yul Brynner, and I mean, unbelievable. I just saw it last year. I watched it in the wintertime, so it was like great. But I forgot how good it was. I mean, it was actually was.
It can't be as good as it was, and then it is. It's crazy. It's the fact that it can transcend that moment is amazing.
I mean, and let me ask you a question. So how hot was the costume?
It's hot. I lose 10 pounds first 12 days every time.
Oh, jeez.
And they keep adding stuff to it, so it gets heavier. I think with the finish of this movie, we were at 57 pounds, I think it was total, added weight to your body. So, yeah, it's different. I would run with my my weight vests.
Right.
So I gotta have anywhere from, I start with 5, and then by the time we get to season, I'm running 25, and I'm doing 4 or 5 miles with 25 miles, just so I could put the jetpack on, put the kit on, put all the batteries to run the kit.
Right.
In, and then you gotta run and do stuff and make it look like you're just walking around with the
80 pounds of stuff on, right?
You can't be going. Yeah.
So it took you a couple days of getting stiff at first, right?
Well, you don't let them know that, but yeah, you sure as hell do. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
I figured as much. Now, I'm gonna ask you, legendary grandfather, obviously the unbelievable John Wayne. Give me a favorite, something favorite about your grandfather that I have to ask you. I mean, everybody asks you questions, but give me something that
I think people assume that hear critics say it. He played himself. Well, if he played himself, the guy who used to saran wrap his toilet so you couldn't tell and wait for one of us to go in, I never saw that guy in a movie, but that's my grandfather.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't that stoic. Now, you didn't do stupid things in front of him unless you wanted to have a conversation. But you didn't do that with anybody. John Wayne or any adult if you had respect.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
I grew up with a really fun, incredibly emotionally connected man. I remember sitting on his lap, looking through his ballerina book that he loved, and he was just looking at. And I should have known then. He understood movement and what it meant. And ballerinas, tears coming down my grandfather's face. And I'm like, Granddad, what's going on? What are you? This is so comfortable. And he's like, just look at the way she's holding herself. And it's funny because when I started to study for Mando and what I was going to do, Kabuki was it. And I realized that I had an old book that he had used because that was something he used as a man in a mask, Joseph Campbell, the whole deal.
Right.
Same thing Lucas used. And it was the idea behind his characters. It was never what you saw here. It was what you felt here. You think about Tom Donovan, Chisholm, the Searchers, the Cowboys. This was one thing. This was what drove it. So his fierce desire to protect you and all those things that came off as gruff, or his simplicity of it all,
right,
had a complexity underneath, and that's what he was in real life. It was just flipped. And so I think a lot of people had different experiences with him, and I had them all. It was very cool, but his granddad, and it was one of the coolest granddads you could ever hope to have, and then later on you find out that he was the dude. And this other visage, and you're like, wow, that's amazing.
The big door opens.
For me, as an actor, you realize, oh, you really can be these two things, and very separate. So my father, me being a father and a coach, versus me being this guy or whoever I'm playing.
Right.
They never have to come home and interact with each other.
Right.
But they're just different muscles because we all have all these different traits in ourselves. So which muscle am I building for this moment? And that's all it is. So Granddaddy taught me that. And,
how do you look at compared to, you know, famous dad, famous uncles, favorite grandfather, you know, so when you sit there and you look at it and say, okay, look, man, you know, I got a lot of shoes here, you know, I mean, you know, you don't just got, you know, dad or
the first one in Star Wars. My grandfather's voice is in it.
Really?
They took him off the floor. Look it up. I can't remember the one he plays. It's at the bar. They found sound from the shootist because they were doing it all same place, you know, working out of the booth.
Right.
Picked up the thing, heard it was the Duke. They thought the sound guys thought it'd be great. They just elongated it and did this stuff. So yeah, pretty funny.
That is awesome. What are you working on, and where can everybody find you?
You can find me at The Real Brendan Wayne on Instagram and pretty much anywhere else, social media wise. You want to come out and support Grant High School, where I coach soccer during the winter season. I haven't missed it, even though I've been filming. I never missed their season. Those kids mean the world to me. We want to talk about overcoming in real life. These kids do it daily. I'm also filming The Vanishing Tour shortly. You'll be able to check it out. It's going to be really good horror, sci-fi, playing a fun character. Those are the places I can think of. And then after ICC Nashville, thank you for having me. I'll be in Australia, London, and Colorado, I think.
Brother, thank you so much for taking time. It's been a true pleasure. Lifebox Media Channel, Brendan and Wayne, we are